I'm Tessa. I'm the shamanic healer on Kesenya's wellness team, and today I'm filming sitting right here in between client sessions. I've got a busy day and I'm doing this little video covering a few different topics that I feel are often misunderstood in terms of healing, or things that from the Western mindset we might not even know that we're misunderstanding. So covering a few different things, including why we sometimes feel worse after healing, why it's important to balance out the masculine and feminine, and why it's a circular path. So these are big topics, and this is not going to be a super long video. So I just want to touch on a few things that have come to my attention recently that I feel are useful. So first of all, why do we sometimes feel worse after healing? And I'm going to pass on, I don't know if I've said this in previous videos, but my shaman said to me, it's like having a pimple, which sounds gross, that you pop. And then the healing begins. It has to be cleared out. And, you know, a lot of pressure and so forth builds up. And the same before a healing session or before our first healing session a lot of the time. And then we poke a hole in that balloon, and all that stuff that was in there has to sort of bleed out. And then we can begin the healing process. But as you know, when you have a wound, it can be itchy and it has to sort of crust over. And, you know, that's literally what healing is. Although healing is a lifelong holistic journey where you're not just waiting for it to happen, you are the one in charge of it. So with that in mind, when we come from a Western mindset that someone else is going to fix us, or that we have to find a solution to a specific problem, or that a specific method is going to fix us, that puts us in a position where we're not in power. And that's not to say that healing can't fix things. Of course it can, otherwise no one would be working with it. But it's much more complex than that. It's not that we, you know, apply a certain technique and it's going to fix the same problem for everyone, because there are so many more aspects when you come from a holistic perspective to look at. So for example, I often get messages from people on my website that says, you know, someone saw something dark attached to me. Can you fix this? Can you close portals? Can you do this? Can you do that? Is this going to work for this? And my response is never yes. Because although I am sure I can help people if they're sent to me, it's not that simple. If you come with something attached and I remove it, but you don't do your own healing work, you're going to attract another version of that. So yes, the techniques work, but it's much more complicated than that. What are you doing in between sessions? What are you doing to understand why that happened to you? And of course, it depends. Sometimes healing is a fix. You know, I've had sessions where we do a cord cutting with someone and they say, wow, in that second, my whole approach to this relationship with this person has shifted. I feel different. It's done. It's different. It's healed. That can happen. But a lot of the time, that's probably because that person was ready for that and had done a lot of work taking them to that point. So it's quite fascinating from the perspective of a healer to watch how different things and situations will be, even with the same method, because where you're at and what you're experiencing and what your life path is going to be so unique to you. So healing is a long journey, and you go to a healer to have help with what you can't perhaps fix yourself. So you might have some energy that needs to be cleared, or an attachment of some kind, or cords of some kind, or cords that need to be cut, or a soul retrieval that needs to be done, or whatever it is. You know, we all have various versions of this, but it's not that you go to them the way you go to, you know, the dentist or some other traditional profession where we go, okay, this is the issue and this is how we're going to fix it. It is a lot more complicated than that. And that's frustrating for the Western mind to understand sometimes. You know, you go to a healer to have them hold the space and be the vessel for spirit for what you are ready for. What you're ready for day one of your healing versus 15 years later is going to be very different. So if this is, let's say someone came to see me, it's the very first week of their spiritual awakening, if you will, and they come to me for a shamanic healing session, and I do, let's say I do a journey to do some extractions or clearings of them. and then another person comes right after and I do the same thing, but they've been on their path doing a lot of inner work for 15 years, it's going to be completely different. So healing is not something that's method oriented. We pick the method that best fits what you need, and spirit comes in and works with it. But it's not as simple as we have this issue and we apply this, because there's so much more going on. And a lot of the time you have to be ready. So you may be ready to fix something, but below that there might be something a lot deeper going on that you're not ready to face yet. So you're not going to energetically bring that up in the session, and spirit is not going to work with it, because you really are in control. You're not going to be forced into something. So it can be really hard for some, for me, all this makes sense because this is what I do all day, every day. But at the start, and especially coming from a Western, very masculine, linear perspective, I can understand why people will say, look, before I book in, can you tell me if you can fix this? And I could say yes, because most likely we can fix it, but I like to come from a bigger perspective where it's more important for me that you understand how holistic methods work and how spirit works than that you book a session with me, right? So I'm not going to say yes. I'm going to say we can do this, but what are you doing on the side, or what else is happening, or what are the layers to this, or and so forth. So it can be a little bit of a challenge to wrap our heads around holistic methods at the start. So that brings me to the masculine and the feminine, which I know I've touched on in videos before, and it's something that I've had to keep healing within myself. I would say in most Westerners, or in most modern cultures, the masculine and feminine is not in balance, both in society and within ourselves. And I know for me, I had to do a lot of healing to, even if my heart was very open, there was a lot of conditioning to unlearn about the feminine. And everyone has masculine and feminine inside of them, of course. So this is not a men versus women situation. We're talking about the energies of the masculine and feminine. So in the West, a lot of the time, the masculine has been so separated from the feminine that men might be scared of showing emotions, or women are forced to be on a very kind of linear path at work when we're actually cyclical, for example. So this runs very deep. And as you begin to work with this within yourself, you can find very, very interesting ways that you've been conditioned into this. And then there's individual differences where you might just be an incredibly watery person, always in your feminine to the point that you don't take action. Or you can be so much in your masculine that you constantly value doing, and think that the more you do, the better it is. So it's balancing the scales within yourself and within, in your life. So in the Andes and in the tradition, the Inca medicine that the Kira tradition that I'm working with, we talk about Panya and Yoke Nyusta. It's the right and the left. And this may seem really strange if you're not on this path, but it comes back to that duality, left, right, masculine, feminine, up, down, black, white. Everything has duality in the physical world. So with the initiations I have, and I'm about to have one on Monday actually, one of the tasks is for me to meditate on an understanding of Panya, the right, and Yoke, Nyusta. Nyusta means princess. So it's the kind of the masculine and the right and the feminine, the left energies of the universe. This is quite a complicated concept. But interestingly enough, when I first was asked to meditate on this to me made sense, and I didn't expect it to, because a lot of the time, it takes time. Anything I'm taught, it can take a long time for me to really understand it, coming from a different culture and being initiated into, this lineage. But with this particular aspect or teaching, it made sense to me the first time I meditated on it. And I think that's because I had to do so much balancing of the masculine and feminine within myself. So I was shown something very interesting in this meditation, and it was that the masculine contains the feminine. And I was given this idea of the X and the Y chromosome. Whereas the feminine is feminine. So it was a very, okay, now I can't remember exactly the finer details of it, but it was a very fascinating experience of being shown the masculine energy and the feminine energy. And as I've kept meditating on that, I did it again this morning in preparation for this initiation, because during the initiation we work with these energies and with mountains and all sorts of things. And Spirit was showing me all these different ways how the masculine and feminine energy differs and complement each other. That's the point. It's about how the two meet. So I was shown, for example, a group of men going forward, marching. And then I was shown women moving in a circle, like in a sacred medicine circle. So that's not to say that women can't march forward and men can't go in a circle, of course. And as I said, we both have all of it, but this is about Spirit explaining the masculine and the feminine energies on a higher level than just men and women. So I was shown the masculine, step forward, and the women circling, and shapes, like the spiral shape or the round shape or the very square shapes and so forth. I was shown all these different ways, and then how when they come together, there is this rigid, strict masculine energy, but then the swirling feminine energy, and how the two merge to create this structured yet soft energy. So for some people who are new to the spiritual path, this might be just have gone right over your head and you're going, what is she on about? Which is fine. I just sometimes like to share some of the deeper things that I'm working with myself. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because it comes back to this linear idea we have that I have a problem and there is a solution, as opposed to this is a part of a more holistic solution where, yes, I have a healing session, but I also do breath work, I also eat well, I also get out in nature, I also call on Spirit, I also meditate, I also have another healing session or do my own work with Spirit or whatever it is. And that together is a structured approach, but it's circular. And sometimes, when you have a healing session, you feel, as I said, a lot worse, especially at the start. And sometimes you have a very blissful session, you have 4 blissful sessions, and then you're ready for deep work, and all of a sudden you have a month of feeling really awful. It doesn't mean that you're going backwards, it means that you're just in this spiral that healing is. So it's always going to keep going. And my shaman was actually joking with me the other day, because I said I had just gone through this extremely deep shadow work process, which is a big part of this path. If I run into anything uncomfortable, I have to address it kind of head on within myself and integrate it and make it my medicine. So I had a big process like that. I went head on into this, inner work that I had to do. I came out of it. It was a long kind of process, quite a bit of anxiety bubbling up, all these things. And then I felt all right again. And I said, wow, I just got, a day's break, because then something else came up that I had to deal with. And he said, great, enjoy it while you get a day break. At some point, you won't even get a day break. So I understand why sometimes, people choose not to go on a healing journey, because it is deep and it can be painful, but a life lived without going through that. And I'm not talking about it as in seeing a healer. I'm talking about the work you do yourself. As I always say, my videos are about encouraging you to do your healing work. I'm here to help where you need external help, but what's most important is what you do yourself between sessions. And I know I'm repeating myself, but sometimes I feel that's needed for us to really begin to become our own sovereign experts in our own life, not to give our power away. It doesn't mean that we never need help or that we go to heal it just for the sake of it. Of course, I and other healers are here to help, but you are really the one doing the work. So I think I got sidetracked there. What was I talking about? No, maybe that was it. Let me check my notes. So another thing with the masculine and the feminine that I think is very interesting is that when you begin to really be more in your feminine, which the spiritual path generally, as you heal, lets you do, you become much more still and much more in a receptive state of surrender. And in the West, those are not facets that are valued. A lot of the time, if someone's still or taking a step back or being in a receptive state. We think they're inactive or lazy, or, you know, and sometimes that's the shadow aspect of that, right? But when you're doing it from the perspective of being in tune and waiting for something to come your way so you can grab it or put your hand up and say yes when it's coming your way because of the work you've previously done, you're receptive and in alignment in a very healthy way, not in a sort of lazy, I can't be bothered way, which is the shadow side, right? Whereas sometimes we do need to be in the masculine, which is, you know, digging, driving, expanding, going forward. And that's fantastic if we're taking action when it's time for it. If we're doing it because we can't be still, we've stepped into that shadow aspect of the masculine, right? So the spiritual path is so much about coming into balance. It's very simple. It's about balance and being in your own center. And as soon as you start to stray from that, which will happen, we're human. It's not about always sitting on top of a mountain feeling like Buddha. You know, you gotta have those shadow experiences, but it's about learning to navigate your ship back to the center and allowing yourself to go deep enough to look at where that came from and where that is within you and integrating it and healing. So there was something else I wanted to cover. So it's very circular. And you know, I think, what else did I want to say? I think that was pretty much it, but I think it's so important, and I know I've already touched on some of those subjects before, but I know sometimes I have new viewers on here and these keep coming up because it's hard concepts for us to understand. So to me, even, you know, sometimes I talk about, let's say, essential oils, and if I mention essential oils, someone might say, okay, what do they do? If I get this oil, what can I expect? And of course they have properties, and, you know, if you're working with plants, you can tune into the you know, the energy of the plant and all of that. But to me, the holistic approach is not, I'm going to get this oil to fix this. It's that I'm going to get this oil to smell, to make me feel good. Yes, it has properties that's going to help my physical body, and I'm going to add that whilst I do breath work, whilst I'm thinking about something positive, or perhaps to ground me on a stressful day, or perhaps when I'm doing shadow work. And then I'm going to get some, you know, Palo Santo to clear myself. Then I'm going to go and exercise and go for a walk in nature, and all together I'm creating this holistic approach every day to bring myself to the best, most balanced, centered, well-being state I can be. And from here I can progress. So the path continuously progresses, but you're going like this, you know. So you might be, okay, I've gone a year on this healing path, and you know, I've come a long way, and then you're going down. So you're going up, but you're also going down because now you're doing shadow work. So, but then you come back and you've gone a little bit further up. So it is a linear path forward at the same time as you might be spiraling and going down. So it's quite hard until you understand that. And then over time, you can see yourself healing, and along the way, you know, you see who you need to for the help you need. But your own inner work and even those healing sessions you have with a healer might trigger you to go down that whole spiral, because there was something there you needed to release and heal before you could progress to the next level. And there's no competition. It's not like there is a level to get to or you're higher than someone else. It's that continuous healing journey. So part of it is that deep inner work and understanding yourself, but I also think it's important not to get so caught up in our stories and everything that's wrong with us, and so focused on ourselves that we think that that's everything. You know, we also got to focus on, you know, what are we here to do? Who are we here to serve? How are we here to help? How can we make a difference in the world? But there was something else I wanted to share. I might pause this because I feel like I'm forgetting something. 1 second. Yeah, so another concept where this comes up is the whole sacrifice. And I touched on this in the devotion video probably. But for example, on Monday, I've got an initiation. So What that means is I'm going to stay off, alcohol, which I do anyways. I'm on a plant-based diet, but otherwise I would be staying off meat and animal products. And I'll be staying off onion and garlic for 11 days. I'll be sleeping alone for 8 days. I'll be doing certain things during the initiation and after the initiation and so forth. So it's not because if I ate a piece of garlic, all would be ruined, or if I didn't have the color of clothes I've been advised to, all would be ruined. And this comes back to that whole masculine cause effect linear perspective that we tend to have in the West. No, it's that the accumulative effect of me making that sacrifice from my heart out of reverence, respect for the elders, respect for the tradition, wanting to, work on my self-control and give because I'm about to receive this blessing. All of that accumulated energy makes the initiation go deeper or be, more successful perhaps, or, easier, or, it's levels to everything. For example, with the despachos that we make, which is a prayer offering sort of to the earth that we can burn or bury, my teacher says that, Giuliano, he says that you can, there are levels to building a house, so you can have just like here I've got, because I've been working, I have 3 in the Andes. This would be coca leaves, but these are bay leaves because coca is not legal in Australia. So with our breath, we pray in the directions, and this is why I've got it here, because when I open sacred space to do my work, I will do that in the 4 directions. So that's a little offering, and that's sort of a day-to-day thing that I do. But then maybe every 3 months I'll do this big prayer offering, and I build, the castle version of it. And if I was in Peru, I would be building it with stuff that I can't even get in Australia, and it would be even more powerful. So it's not about the money or the items that you put in. It's that whole giving from your heart and showing up. So the same with the initiation. It's not that it would fail if I had a piece of garlic, and my teachers are very open-minded. They will say, try. So you do your best and you receive the equivalent of that. But it's not that spirit is there to punish you, or that someone's there, that you're sacrificing to, because you're, to criticize yourself or be hard on yourself. It's about that whole coming into your center and being diligent and showing up. So, and preserving, in this case, preserving indigenous traditions, because so much has been lost. So that's another aspect of where the linear, I think, a lot of the time has been misunderstood in the West, where, I grew up in Sweden, where it's very individualistic. Go, be successful. It's all about you. The collective doesn't matter. And, growing up, we would look at the collective society where there's more focus on the collective as somewhere where you're not allowed to thrive because someone's telling you what to do. So that's the very biased and skewed version of that, which I'm understanding now that I'm working with a culture where, no, it's not about you. In fact, the path of the shamanic healer makes it less and less about you, and more about the bigger picture. And it's not because you don't matter or because you're putting yourself down. It's because there's such a bigger perspective to tap into. So we really have to check in with our own biases, both in how we approach our healing, how we show up, how we see different treatments like healing, or, I would say it's probably the same even in, the medical profession. You can go to a doctor to have them, do surgery on you. But if you then are not going to take the time to rest and heal and eat well, you're going to have to come back because you might have the same thing coming up again. So it really isn't that different than perhaps how things are approached in the West. It's more about learning where our biases is and where we see things perhaps in the wrong way. So that was a video that went a little bit deep and all over the place, but such important topics. You are the expert in your life. What you do is what matters. You know best. Empower yourself to create a holistic healing journey for yourself, but don't see it as someone else is there to fix you, or that you don't have the tools that you need. It's a much, much bigger perspective than that. So I wish you a beautiful couple of weeks. I guess there'll probably be one more video before Christmas coming out, and I will speak to you soon. Have a beautiful week or 2 weeks. Much love and thank you for watching. Bye.